In today's rapidly evolving world, information technology is not just a support system, it is the backbone of many companies. And it supports the resilience and competitive advantage across many industries. It shapes how we connect and create and also lead in the business world. I'm Milusha. Welcome to Ambeon Insights. And with that in mind, I am truly honored to welcome a global technology leader who demonstrates this transformative power, Mr. Vishal Gupta, the Global Chief Technology Officer and Chief Information Officer, and the Senior Vice President of Connected Technology at Lexmark. Vishal, welcome to Ambeon Insights.
Thank you for having me, Nilisha.
Vishal, to start off, you must be a new person for the Sri Lankan community. So you had an illustrious career in the technology field. Would you tell me a little bit about your specialty, your journey in the technology sector?
Sure. I finished my bachelor's in India out of BITS Pilani, and then I went to US in '92, and that was on a fellowship. So it was first time I had taken a flight. I'd never taken a flight before. My first flight became an international flight.
Oh, wow.
And to the US, I didn't even know how to tie a seatbelt on the plane. Kind of tied it like a shoelace. And so I've been in technology really since then. So maybe 33 years or so. Actually built the search engine during my master's thesis document using neural networks and AI that now we talk so much about. That was 4 years plus back. And so in my career, I have worked with a lot of technology companies that will work in a lot of functions, whether it's strategy or services or even sales engineering, as well as building the products themselves. I've been at companies like Cisco. I was executive at Cisco. I was a expat back in India. I also was CEO in India, out of the India Center from like 1,000 to 12,000 people. I was also executive at Symantec, which is a cybersecurity company. So I was the SVP of engineering and product management there. Then I became a CTO at Unisys, which is also very well known, a Section 16 officer, and now at CIO and CTO at Lexmark. And I think the couple things that I've sort of learned along the way are, one, even though I'm in technology, it's all about people. How do you attract people? How do you build a great team? How do you develop the team? And so technology, it's about machines.
It's not about machines.
It's not about machines, right? Machines are programmed, operated, managed by people. Now, clearly with AI, some of that is changing, but still people are the center of it. And I think as a technology leader, knowing how to really develop the right people, how to invest in them, how to retain them, how to bring the best out of them is key. And the other bit that I really learned is it's all about collaboration. So, whether it's collaborating with your customers, with your employees, with your own team, with other executives, because ultimately, as we said, to bring the best out of technology, you need to get everybody aligned. And so I think for me, the benefit has been because I've worked in so many areas, not just building up the technology, but also in taking it to market on the sales side and deploying it with the customers and doing the strategy behind it and doing the product management behind it. And so that has given me a bit of an empathy on what does it take to make a technology successful.
Wow. On that same note, Vishal, what is the most critical success factor for a digital transformation for a traditional enterprise, I would say?
Sure. And I think this is probably a very key question, especially to your viewers in Sri Lanka, because I heard yesterday in the conference that, digital transformation is sort of the digital economy in Sri Lanka is around 5 to 6% today. And the opportunity, for example, places like India is 10 to 12. So there's an opportunity not to just grow in scale, but also as a percentage. And so you really have to think about what does it take to make that digital transformation successful. And I think there are two key things. One, I think, is alignment. Because, at the end of the day, unless your entire company, including the executives, are aligned behind a vision, behind digital transformation, just the CIO or the CTO alone cannot make it happen. This means the entire executive team or the entire leadership team in an organization has to be behind. And so it comes back to how do you really work effectively with people and collaborate them and formulate a vision where technology can really accelerate the vision for the company, not just technology on its own. I think the second big thing is around change management, because technology by nature will bring change. And as humans, we're not comfortable with change. And so you need to really think a lot around how am I going to enable my users? How will I enable the change management process? What stays the same and what changes? What is the benefit of the change? What's in it for the user? They say kind of WIFM, what's in it for me as individual users, as individual persona, as individual groups. So unless you think about these two things in a holistic way, you will not have success in the digital transformation. And I think, especially for Sri Lanka, I think it's a massive opportunity. This is where the world is going. And because it is starting where it is, it has a great opportunity to leapfrog sometimes, just like India did in many of the places.
Okay, great. And now, in that case, what is the role that IT can play when it comes to customer experience? Now, you said you're talking about how the end product would change the customer perspective.
Right.
So how can the IT support the customer experience?
I think it's a great question again. So, every organization, whether it's for profit or non-profit, is serving some customers, right? Yesterday we heard from a monk. The monks are also serving the people who need their help, right? They're saying, okay, how do I create a great experience with them? And so to your point, customer experience is really key for an organization to flourish. Now, if I think about how does the customer interact with you? You're thinking about the selling process. How's the pre-sale experience? You're thinking about the onboarding process. How do the customer, when they start using my service, how do I bring them on? You're thinking about the support process. And ultimately, the customers don't really care what technology you have. They care about the experience that they have. And so I think what IT can do is to partner with the customers through what we call as design partnerships. So we can clearly understand what is a critical thing in that experience that they're looking for, and how do I make it frictionless? So the customer it's very seamless for the customer to become a customer, to go to newer versions, to experience the business outcome that they are looking to experience from your product. And so I think IT can actually, through that spirit of collaboration, through the spirit of forming the right technologies that address the right use cases, and ensuring that they can measure their customer outcome that the customer is looking for, they can make sure that they have a wonderful experience. And that's why you see people like Apple or Microsoft or NVIDIA being such multi-trillion-dollar companies, because they're really focused like a laser on the customer experience.
Okay, so understanding the customer requirement when it comes to implementing the technology is important.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you don't get the product across the customer.
I think just to maybe give you one example also there, right? At Lexmark, for example, we formed a customer advisory board. We had customers from many verticals and many sizes and give us feedback. And one of the things they told us was that, hey, we do with the customer what we call as a quarterly business reviews. Once every 3 months, we tell them, here is the places here's how many printers you have or how many other softwares we are using. Here is the experience behind them. And they said, we love that you do that for us, but can you do it instead of every 3 months in a more ongoing basis? And so we had to create, a set of analytics that they could experience without coming to us 24/7. And this is a set of 45 analytics. And once we gave that to them, their experience became so much better, very proactive instead of reacting, very self-serve instead of just having a set of, how to put it reports. And so that is, that's one example to think about, how does the customer experience you and what can you do to delight them?
And Vishal, another word, a buzzword is AI, artificial intelligence. So how is generative AI can reshape the enterprise IT, and how can it affect the decision making? How can it make it better?
Sure. So I think IT can play a big role in bringing the power of generative AI to help in making things cheaper, better, faster. Right? It's really as simple as that. And so, for example, one of the things we do is we measure IT satisfaction. And it used to be 78%, now it's 93. And how we were able to improve that satisfaction that the users have from us was think about going back to the customer experience. What is the experience they have to get, let's say, a new device, to get a new piece of software, to get a trouble ticket resolved, to experience the network, to experience ability to spawn something in the cloud. And so each of these things, I think generative AI can help in making that process easier and better and faster. So for example, I'll give you one simple example. We're using generative AI today for answering RFPs because, we have a lot of examples of RFPs we've done in the past. And so we can learn from those best practices. We can have generative AI learn from, say, 1,000 RFPs that we've done in the past, and then automatically answer a new one. And then instead of people having to answer the RFP, they can just review the responses to the RFP. So this way, we could help our customers better. This way, we could also help our users get much more immediate responses versus, say, a day typically that IT organizations take to get back to them, and just accelerate things.
Okay. And Vishal, in that same thought now, you were talking about artificial intelligence and technology, but with all these new innovations, there's another threat coming in cybersecurity.
Indeed.
And so how should a CIO rethink about their security architecture and what is the way forward for a CIO in this environment?
It's a great question again. I think we talked about how digital transformation is very important. So as things go more digital, then also the threat to those things goes up. Because now, if everything is controlled by, let's say we just came on an elevator, right? What if somebody happened in the elevator and instead of getting to the floor that we were trying to, they took us all the way up and then just locked the door and said, unless you pay me this much money, I won't open. What do you do? Right? It's not trying to scare you, but that is very much possible today with technology, right? And so as we go more digital, as we deploy more AI, the ability to misuse those things also goes up. And so when you think about cybersecurity, you can think about it in the context of AI in 4 ways. One, how do you protect the AI that your organization has? Because that is your crown jewel, right? Number 2, how do you protect from AI? Because AI can also be misused, as we just talked about. And so, for example, these days people have a lot of phishing that AI is able to do. It's able to generate very tailored emails based upon knowing that which event you're in, looking at your LinkedIn feed or Facebook feed. And so you have AI fighting AI, really, right? By protecting from the AI. So you've got companies that help in doing that. For example, I'm an advisor to a company called Symbian, which is able to help in that kind of context. Then it is protect with AI. So in each of the cybersecurity products that we're using, can AI help in finding the problem and fixing those problems faster? And so you're seeing that a lot in the cyberspace, right, from all the big companies today. And I think finally it is, using AI because, security people are very hard to find. They cost a lot of money. So can AI be used to automate a lot of security pieces so you're not constantly having to hire and manage a lot of people? And so that's where the AI agents and security and other things come.
So AI is used for cybersecurity as well.
Absolutely. I think the bad guys are definitely using it. And so if you as a good guy don't use it, they have an upper hand in you.
And also, Vishal, in that, we were talking about the cybersecurity threat. And also there's a concern for data privacy. And how does that balance, how can a company or a CIO can come to a balance where you use the data, you use the technology, but at the same time you ensure the data privacy?
So another good question. See, I think we are entering a period where people are saying your data is ultimately your biggest competitive advantage. And so as a head of IT, as a head of security, what you cannot say is no, right? Because if you stop your organization from using its data, then you're creating a disadvantage for the organization. So I can certainly be compliant. I can say, hey, nobody will use any data, and I'll drive my organization to the ground. So that's not a viable strategy. At the same time, all organizations are required to comply with different standards, whether it's standards on privacy, like for example, Europe has GDPR, California has CCPA, whether it's standards like ISO standards, whether it's standards like SOC 2 compliance standards for things like everything is in cloud these days. And so I think what you have to do is to enable the and with the right safeguards, right? And so the data is critical, but I have to make sure that the PHI, the private information for the consumers, for the businesses is protected. This means that I may have to mask some pieces of information, aggregate some pieces of information, make sure that I'm able to deliver the analytics without really, playing with the privacy of the people that are engaged in it. And so it's really important to understand these standards. At the same time, understand the business that you're trying to support and how to bring that and together.
And do you believe that the current regulations or the compliance requirements covers the data privacy to a reasonable level?
It's a great question. I think in some ways Europe is furthest ahead, and places like California. In some ways, I would say places like India and Sri Lanka are still catching up on the privacy standards, right? I think if we want to embrace a lot of digital transformation, I think these standards will be important to drive the trust, to enable organizations and consumers to adapt to the digital technology. For example, in India right now, right, pretty much all transactions are not happening cashless because people have built a trust with UPI, right? And so you have to think about, how do I build my privacy standards that enable the consumer or the organization to build a trust that enable them to adopt these things. So things like security, things like privacy, things like governance, I think are not things that slow you down. They're actually things that can speed you up. When you have a race car, the brake is there not to slow you down, actually to go help you go faster. Because without the brakes, you would go very slow. But because I now have the brakes, I can go fast and know I can brake whenever I need to.
That's a great example.
Right.
Vishal, really take Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is still in the very early stage when it comes to, we are talking about smart government in Sri Lanka, but we are at the very early stages.
Right.
So, with your global experience, what are the essential things that Sri Lanka should look at when you start this journey?
Yeah, I think great question. I think, you have to always look at what things can be a strength for you and play from that strength area versus from just trying to copy everybody, right? So if I look at it, Sri Lanka is an island country. It is situated very nicely on this east-west shipping route. And so that tells me there should be a lot of opportunity for logistics and IoT and AI because of all the commerce that can get shipped through it. Also, it has it has a good set of population which can be educated and can work as they learn these new technologies, can actually create great like global capability center out of it. And so I think from a government perspective, first you have to do things like, hey, similar to India or Estonia, like in India you have Aadhaar, which is sort of the biometric record that gives everybody identity. So do you have something similar to what India or Estonia have done to give everybody an identity? So I know uniquely who you are, and there is no pilferage or lack of trust that has to happen. Because for digital, that is key, right? We can't physically meet every time. Then you have to enable the whole financial payment model, very similar to UPI. So I think that what the government has to do is to enable these kinds of investments. And then it has to also enable investment in training of people at limited to no cost to enable people to learn different technologies, right? So as people who are graduates from colleges, can have the right skill. There are people who are even in the middle of workforce can get reskilled easily. And if you do that, I think the rest of the thing can take over, right? I think given Sri Lanka's proximity to India, given its capability, a lot of opportunities are there from a digital perspective in Sri Lanka. You have companies like Millennium IT who've done some really wonderful work. And so the question is, can you create many more of those companies?
It's definitely a journey.
It is.
And you're here in Sri Lanka for a special occasion, Vishal, to attend the Global CIO Circle Innovation Summit and the retreat for 2025. Millennium IT, as you mentioned, Millennium IT is also a member of Ambeon Root, is a key supporter of this summit.
Right.
So, Vishal, about your experience in this summit, how do you feel about the summit and also about being in Sri Lanka at this time?
I only arrived in Sri Lanka yesterday.
Okay.
I have been to 76 countries in my life, even though the first country I went to was at 21 age, to the US. But now I've caught up. And it's so true. So Sri Lanka is 77.
Wow.
And I love it. I don't know why it took me such a long time to come here, but I'm really glad it is the first time. But I'm very glad I did. Also, obviously, being educated in the Indo mythology, it has a lot of significance. So that is wonderful to see. Just as wonderful to see the samudra or the sea right in front of where we are. Also, I think the conference is very full-time because, you have these startups, you have CIOs like myself who are there. You have a lot of folks from the Sri Lanka ecosystem who are doing some wonderful things. And so I'm really glad I made the investment to come here and both learn and contribute.
Wonderful. And Vishal, you are a very skilled, experienced individual in the CIO, CTO role in that capacity. In your view, what do you believe are the most essential skills for somebody who is stepping into this industry, this segment? What are the most important skills that they should have?
It's a great question. Earlier in my career, maybe 20 years back, I would have told you a number of technologies that they needed to know. But now I would not say that because new technology is coming in all the time. And so you have to think about what is it that the people need to succeed. And I think that the couple things that people need to succeed are one, ability to learn, right? Because the pace of change of technology is so fast that whatever you've learned 2 years back is going to get outdated. And so your ability to learn, no matter what your age is, new things is going to be key. That's that piece. I think the second piece would be your ability to collaborate. Because, with technology, you have a lot of ability to create new things. But that's a team sport. That requires you to not just say, hey, I'm the smartest. Actually, it requires a lot of humility to work with people, understand the pain points, and devise technologies to address those pain points. Those solutions. But people's skills are actually very important in technology. And finally, I would say it's empathy. Because, even though you may have good skills from people in terms of networking with them, having an empathy to understand what problems they're really facing will help you and will give you the credibility to really partner in that change management that I talked about. Because you may have wonderful technology, but it may sit on the shelf. Without that empathy, it will not forward. Yes.
Vishal, you are talking about the people who want to become IT professionals.
Sure.
Let's talk about the other professions and how important the IT or the technology, the knowledge of it for any other professional that to do their job in the cart world.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think probably one of the most interesting questions you've asked. If I think about it, if I think back to my parents' time, right? Computers were just coming in maybe 30 years back, right? And a lot of the people didn't want to learn the computer. They said, okay, let my assistant learn the computer, and I still want to, do things based upon paper, or I still want to do things based upon giving somebody a dictation of what I want. And so their ability to impact things became very limited. And so even if you're not in IT, even if you're not in technology, your productivity, your value is a function of the technologies that you can adopt to leverage yourself. And so let's say if you're in human resources, if you knew technology well, and you're a good user of the technology, you can understand all the analytics to know what are my people feeling in the organization, what things are going well that I should encourage, what things are a problem that's making them leak. Without the technology, it might take you much harder time to know those insights and act on those insights. And so, we live in a world where there's a lot of social media, where everybody has a lot of desires. And I think those desires can only be fulfilled if you're very productive, right? Because whatever an organization pays you is a function of your productivity. And so if we all want to be successful in this kind of world we live in, we'll have to be continuously be better. We have to be more productive. And for that, we need to be good adopters of technology so we can, do the thing we do in a better way.
Is there any profession who could ignore technology and still be successful?
I honestly cannot think of one, but maybe film. But these days, technology is making a lot of films and all, right? And so I think people who don't embrace technology will unfortunately be left behind. Yeah, but that's a decision you have to make.
Right. And Vishal, with all what you said, looking ahead, what do you think will define the next decade of enterprise and information technology?
Yeah, it's another great question. So I think the pace of change is really accelerating. Right? We've been hearing this for the last 20 years. Pace of change is going up, pace of change is going up, but now it's more than ever. Companies who used to rely on just the fact that a lot of capital, capital is available easily to anybody who has a good idea. Or companies who relied on the physical boundaries can no longer again do that because many other companies can offer them goods and services digital, right? And so I think we live in a time where the pace of change is becoming faster and faster because with AI, I can create new offerings, new capabilities much faster. And so you cannot rely on your old laurels, right? People can create what took the software 10 years to make and now be made in 6 months. And so this means I'd have to innovate. If let's say you're an offline business, let's say you're a shop. Now, Amazon will compete with you. And so what will happen to your margins? Let's say you're a bus. Now, if somebody who has a website where you can easily make reservation will be in a better position to fill their buses than you are. And so I think we're going to see that, in the past, there were technology businesses and non-technology businesses. I think that distinction will blur. And so I think in future, it will be either technology-enabled businesses or technology businesses. Because every business that does not embrace technology is going to go out of business, unfortunately, because they'll just not be competitive. And so I see that change happening, that no matter what you're doing, it's like today, right? I don't think about, hey, do I need electricity or not? Every business needs electricity. It's like the utility. Do I need air conditioning or not, right? These are considered as not a differentiator, but a utility that you need to have. So I think technology will become another utility that you need it. And you need it, to deliver your use case. And that if you don't, you'll not be able to retain your employees or your customers.
Become so generic.
It will become so generic and non-differentiated and non-sustained.
And last but not least, Vishal, what would be your advice to a young entrepreneur or a young professional to be relevant in the future, and how that they have to make sure that their skill set, because we are talking about machines taking over a lot of jobs or the businesses.
Yeah.
How can they be relevant?
I honestly think we live in a really amazing age because I think in some ways the field is becoming more level playing. It's not going to matter so much on your economic status. It's not going to matter so much on your which country you're from. Now with something like a YouTube or a Facebook or Coursera, everybody has access to the same knowledge. They have access to the same training. And so it'll be based upon really who's willing to do the work to equip themselves with that knowledge, with the tools, with the thinking and the desire to make things happen. And so I think for people who are entering the workforce, it is actually a wonderful turn. I would say they should, really embrace it. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. Learn these things. Develop a culture of learning. Develop a culture of thinking around why be a little bit dissatisfied with the current status. How can I make this thing better? And if they have the culture of learning and they have the dissatisfaction with status quo to say, how can I make something better? Really, the world is their opportunity. Innumerable opportunities will exist for people who think in that way.
Wonderful. I think that's a great advice, Vishal. And Vishal, thank you very much for joining with us. And also, I think you're bringing up a lot of experience, a wealth of experience globally. And thank you for sharing your insights. It is very helpful. I think our viewers will have a lot to learn from you. Thank you very much for joining with us and finding time with your busy schedule.
Thank you so much for having me, Vilusha. And it's really wonderful to be in Sri Lanka. So you have a fantastic country. Thank you.
Thank you for watching, and we will be back soon with another exciting episode with Ambeon Insights.